Welcome to this episode of The Climb. Today we have a very special guest, Ed Tsai, founder of Thesis Capital, venture capitalist. We're here to talk about what is venture capital, why is it an opportunity, how is it an alternative to traditional investing, who is it suitable for, and AI, how does this all tie into the new revolutionary wave in technology, specifically with AI?
Life is full of choices, but how do all these choices connect? And how do we plan for what matters most? Because when your life goals align with the right financial strategy, you don't just dream, you climb.
Ed, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me on, Ethan.
It's a pleasure. Us millennials, I don't know if you're a millennial or not, we're leading this new innovation wave. I think the world has changed significantly since COVID.
Yes.
I don't know where you would say this AI burst starts, but we're living in a different world.
Yeah.
A different world from pre-pandemic. In my opinion, it's as transformative as September 11, the financial crisis, maybe even more so, right? And we wanted to bring someone for our audience to have this conversation. What are our options? How do we get exposure to AI?
Mm-hmm.
I know that from your practice, you venture with venture capital. So a lot of us don't know what that is, right? And why should we have some potential exposure there? But before we get there, why don't we tell us a little bit about yourself?
Great. Yeah. I grew up in the Bay Area. Went to school in LA at UCLA,
Nice.
so Bruin. Studied computer science, and that was right during the dot-com boom and bust.
Yes.
So there was a lot of tech happening. Internet started happening. And right after I graduated, went up north to start work at Bain. So I was in consulting for a while, and then joined a venture fund called DCM. And so that was my first foray into venture. I had some exposure before to startups, interning at different startups, and my dad was in tech as well. But from that time, just really enjoyed working in tech, working with startups, seeing the innovation. Afterwards, I spent some time in Asia, worked at two tech companies, one IPO'd, one startup I joined IPO'd, and that was a great experience itself. Came back right during COVID. My dad had some health issues, and so helping out with that, but stayed and joined a fund called Alumni Ventures, which is a very active VC fund, and was there for 4 years as the managing partner and over the AI fund, the blockchain fund, and Westwood. The last year plus, I've been doing my own investments and starting a fund called Thesis Capital. I've been investing in a lot of AI deals and building on some of the prior deals I did, including Palantir, Cruise, Life 360, Brave, and a recent IPO called X Energy.
Oh, that's wonderful. Walk me through why tech in the first place? Like why the inclination to go in that sector?
Yeah, I grew up in Bay Area around tech, and I saw, it was started a lot with computers and seeing what computers can do, and then the internet. And I feel like there's just a lot of speed and innovation. There's a lot of change, and you're always learning new things. You can't stand still in tech, and that was, I think, something that drew me to tech. Seeing people's lives benefited. Now we have Amazon, and you can click and you can order. And I just got here through Lyft, and some of the stuff I've been researching in the morning was through Claude Cowork. So there's a lot of stuff that we're using technology in our daily lives, and I'm sure everyone's benefited from those types of services.
Without question. And you mentioned something earlier regarding your initial exposure during the dot-com era, right?
Mm-hmm.
How different is what we're living today in terms of AI revolution versus what we lived in the 2000s?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think during the first dot-com boom, that was really people's new foray into tech, into startups. There was a lot of venture funding, and there was a lot of interest in what tech could do. And I think some of that interest was maybe slightly early, but eventually, even though many of those companies went down, we did see winners emerge, right? There was Google, and at that time, there were a bunch of other search engines you probably remember. I'm a millennial too, so the web crawler, Alta Vista, people, Yahoo. So people are using those things, but in tech, In some areas in tech, you'll see one or two or max three big winners emerge, and so we saw Google emerge, and now it's a multi-trillion-dollar company. And it's interesting to see of the top 10 market cap companies today, about 7 of the 10 were venture-backed companies, and most of them were actually during the dot-com era or right a little bit afterwards. So there was a up and down, and I think the difference now is that there's more clear value in the AI companies. And so like when you use, everyone's probably used ChatGPT by now. You can ask it for how do I improve my golf score to where should I take my date for Saturday night. You can ask it a lot of questions, and that capability is just improving every month. I use Claude Cowork, and that has a lot more what we call reasoning skills. And so you can ask it to do, for instance, a translation.
Okay.
And it used to be I asked it, ChatGPT, to do a translation last year, and it could barely put out maybe a few pages. Now I ask ChatGPT to do a translation, English to Spanish, English to Mandarin, to Chinese, and it could do entire chapters. It can do entire glossaries. It can continue and think and reason and have multiple steps.
Sure.
We call that agentic AI. And so that's where things are heading. And I think what we're seeing is that people are starting to use that in their own, especially businesses, especially coding. We've seen a lot of people learning and using AI in the workplace for coding. And in fact, I mean, kind of good and bad. Good is that they're improving their skills and doing 10x more what they could before.
Yeah.
A little bit bad in kind of the interim is that there's some layoffs because now you don't need as many people.
Right.
So that value, if you will, of AI is real. And so that's the biggest difference. There's real value.
I see. You mentioned that 7 of the 10 largest tech companies started with venture capital. Is that correct?
Yeah, 7 largest now, not only tech, but market cap companies in the
okay,
entire
market
world.
cap.
So like, like Amazon,
Sure.
Google, et cetera.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is venture capital, so we understand?
Yeah.
And why should we consider some exposure in that side?
Yeah, so venture capital is capital that is put at risk to have ownership in high potential early stage companies. And usually those companies are usually technology based. The reason why it exists is that when a company is very early, you don't know if it's going to do well. Like there's a lot of startups. Most of us probably have some friends in startups or joined a startup.
Yeah.
I mean, the clearest one was Amazon. Amazon over 20 plus years ago. I remember Jeff Bezos tells the story. He talked to so many people and basically was only able to raise like less than 5 million, just a few million off of talking to so many people. He got a lot of rejections.
Sure.
And the reason is because who knew that people were going to buy books online, and not just books, your everyday, your vitamins, your laptops, etc.
They probably thought he was crazy when he was pitching.
He probably thought it was crazy, and and to be honest, there was a lot of early costs in setting up Amazon, setting up the warehouse. I'm sure it wasn't as automated as it is versus now. Barnes and Nobles was very strong. They're like, why compete against Barnes and Nobles? And so there's a lot of risk factors, and that makes it so that it's too risky for banks. But these companies need capital to do stuff before they prove it out.
Okay.
And so that's where venture capital comes in. Venture capital says, hey, I trust you, an entrepreneur, and I'm going to put money in you, but I'm going to own part of your company. And then if you do very, very well, I participate in the upside.
Okay.
So that's the basic work of venture capital. Now, that does mean that maybe a large number or meaningful number of investments for venture capital don't work out. Sure. There's definitely risk, but the ones that do work out can do very, very well. For instance, Uber. There are some people who put money in Uber. Their first round, they put in like 50,000 or 100,000, and the Wall Street Journal reported that they had 100 million.
Wow.
From that. But that's obviously a very, very extreme
Sure.
case of success.
Sure.
There's a lot of stuff in the middle. There's a lot of zeros. But there's a lot of winners. So that all in all, that's venture capital.
Okay, so let's say I'm interested in getting some exposure to venture capital. What are my options? Like, how do I look for these solutions?
Yeah, right now, venture capital in the past wasn't very accessible for people. Usually it was more for institutions. Now there are some venture funds that do engage with retail. Sometimes it's you have to find some friends that are in venture funds. More of the larger funds are have higher requirements. You might need to put in 1 million, 5 million, 10 plus million. But there are some smaller funds or other platforms that you can talk, for instance, like with your wealth advisor. They may have special access to some venture funds that they have partnerships with.
Okay. So understood, but talk to me. What is it that you do? How do you put together your proposals, your presentations? You offer your strategies to institutional investors?
Yeah, so for my fund, a thesis, uh, we're doing venture investing, and so my LPs are people, it could be high net worth people, have talked to.
How do you define, by the way, how do you define high net worth?
High net worth is a broad range, and it depends on what fund. A lot of the people I've talked to, maybe 10 million
Okay.
to 10 million plus net worth, 50 plus million net worth.
Okay.
But people don't have to have that much capital to start with venture. If people with, as long as typically you need to be at least an accredited investor.
Okay.
So someone with 1 million of net assets or above.
Okay.
Some people limit to qualified purchasers, meaning 5 million net worth and above. Sometimes putting in venture, depending on the fund and depending on the platform, some are as low as, let's say, 50 to 100K. Some are higher, thresholds 250K and above. But that's kind of the general starting point for a meaningful investment into venture.
Okay. So I qualify. Let's say I'm a qualified investor. There's a potential relationship to build with you. What differentiates you from other venture capitals? What's your strategy? What are the things that we can discuss in terms of how you do your analysis of AI startups and all
Yeah.
that?
I think the biggest thing is seeing the track record
Okay.
of the VC and
Okay.
what they're really interested in.
Okay.
That's what I call the thesis.
Okay.
And so my thesis is application level AI. So in other words, some people like to call it vertical AI,
Okay.
meaning industry focused. I remember about 4 years ago, I spoke with a friend from OpenAI at a house party. This is in Silicon Valley. And I asked her, where do you think I should invest in AI? Just getting her perspective. And she said vertical. And so I held that kind of thought for the last 4 years. And then thinking about vertical, why is vertical AI an interesting place to play? It's because companies or startups that provide services to specific industries, usually the best of them come from that industry. I have a friend who's from the supply chain industry, and he's talking about a lot of quote to cash and other very detailed things that I didn't know about, but he knew what the industry needed, and he knew the workflow, he knew where the data was, he knew where the pain points were. And if you can solve key pain points and know where can AI plug in to either solve those things or replace entire functions, or definitely at least augment them,
Okay.
that provides a lot of value. The other types of AI that I would say some people like to divide into vertical, horizontal, and infrastructure.
Okay.
And infrastructure is stuff like in the back end that people don't see. It's the stuff that talks with the machines. It's more of organizing data.
Is that like the cloud? Is that?
Yeah, you can say a lot of some of the cloud services, the databases, or some even would say the LLMs, the models themselves, model management.
Yeah.
That's that market is already pretty full with a lot of different big LLM, big players, and it changes very quickly because AI, the way of doing AI is changing so quickly. So I usually stay away from that. Where I like to play, but there's definitely VCs that focus on that as well, and there's ways to make money there. I like to say, hey, what are some problems that can be solved by AI for specific companies, and especially companies that have very, very specific needs.
Okay.
One of my friends I was talking to is doing one on royalty and AI, and how do you do music royalties in AI? That's a whole, I can't say all the secret sauce here,
Sure.
but there's a lot of money in that. How do we use AI to better deal with that area? And so I think that there's companies like Anthropic, OpenAI. They're going to continue to make interesting solutions, but they're going to be generalized. They're not going to be, at least for now, not very vertical focused. Now we might see that in 3 or 5 years. Maybe they change, they add some more stuff. But a lot of the stuff you're seeing is much more generalized, and I think that's where things are heading.
So what are the solutions that you see AI solve, or some of the challenges you see AI solving now? Like where is the limitations right now with the technology?
Yeah.
And where is it potentially heading in the next couple of years?
I think there's two big things that changed in AI. One is its underlying capability, and the second is its what we call agentic reasoning.
Okay.
So, what I mean by underlying capability, when ChatGPT first started out, the first couple versions, it was kind of so-so. SAT score maybe 10th percentile, LSAT maybe 40th percentile. And then in about a year, they got to 90th percentile on the LSAT. And now a year or two later, now it's like 2023, 2024, now definitely 99th percentile. There are tests that are being done that show that it's performing at PhD level. It's already solving like these unsolved math issues that PhDs, researchers would have done. So its reasoning is so much better. You probably saw in the past there were there was the Will Smith eating spaghetti video with generative AI, and it was just very messy and then became very clean.
Yeah.
And then you probably saw ByteDance had a product called Dance, and it was doing a lot of Marvel characters and creating a lot of movie like short form videos. They actually had to stop that because they were getting sued. ByteDance was getting sued by Disney or other types of content providers because it was too good. It was too good. So that was really a very interesting change in AI, just the capabilities. So I think AI is now at human level capability.
Really?
Yeah. So the second aspect is what I call agentic, meaning AI is able to do things by itself. So I'll give you an example. Or two examples. One is right now I use Claude. I use Anthropic's Claude. They have a product called Cowork. And what Cowork does, which is really interesting, is you can enable things end to end. So let's say I want to do I was recently helping this, me and my friend were doing this almost like a nonprofit to help these ministries with AI and AI translation. So we're working with one to translate their content from English to other languages. And I'm not a translator. I know Mandarin, but I'm not a professional translator. But I use AI to ask, hey, can you make a glossary? And so it made a glossary, had the style, the vocabulary, all like 300, words from English to Spanish, English to Chinese, English to Bahasa Indonesian. And then I asked it to do translations. Like I picked some books that we had some text online, and it did the whole, chapter 1, chapter 2.
Wow.
And then I had the English to Spanish translation of one of those books. And I audited that translation through AI, and the score that AI gave for its own translation and that human translation was nearly equal.
Wow.
So now AI, someone say AI is biased, but I don't think that's the case. It really did improve itself. We had to run it 3 times to say, hey, run your translation, see what happens. But that's happening in many, many industries. It's certainly happening in coding. It's going to happen in translation. It's happening in advertising. It's happening in legal field. That reasoning and that end-to-end capability is, I think, the biggest change, the new change that AI can do.
So how are those capabilities changing how business operate?
Yeah.
Operation wise, for the consumer, right? Like how's this changing the world?
So I'll give you an example. Now, there's a deal I invested in at my prior VC fund called Toma.
Okay.
They Andreessen later on, which is a famous fund, later on invested in their Series A. What they do is they do voice calling on behalf of auto dealerships.
Okay.
And like when our dealership, especially when you just bought a car, you can come back for service, you
Yes.
can come back for oil change. So what this company does, it's able to do call outs to people and using voice AI. And now that AI can understand you, you don't need to be on the phone and say, press 1 for yes, press 2 for no. You can have an actual conversation with AI.
And you don't know you're speaking to an AI?
And you don't know. I mean, you can, if you listen carefully, you probably
Okay,
can feel it
okay.
out. But it's getting so much to a point where like it's fine, like you can understand what it says.
Okay.
But it's definitely getting better. And what AI now can do is, instead of having that call center in the middle of Iowa, and somebody calling from 9 to 5, is you can focus all the calls to the best time. Maybe that best time is 10.
Sure.
Maybe that best time is 2 o'clock. You have 10,000 calls. And if the people pick up or not, that's okay. AI can handle that. You don't have to have a warm body, or $20, $25 an hour at minimum, sitting and waiting for people to answer a call or pick up or whatnot. So and that value to the dealerships a lot. If you have a person come in, they need to fix, their transmission, 1,000, 2,000, who knows, it's worth a lot.
Sure.
And so that's just one small part in showing what AI can do. In the creative industries, there's a lot of now AI native movie studios. There's AI native music label. Like I invest in AI native music label. They're creating AI music through AI, and different beats and different songs. And so all industries, I think, are going to have big changes because of AI.
So is there a point where, I mean, it's hard to say, right? But is there a point where we just have a bunch of AI systems just communicating with each other and we're just in the background?
No, that's a great question. What you're describing is like agent to agent. So like everybody, I think in the future, when you imagine like Gary Tan, who's the CEO of Y Combinator, it's a famous accelerator, a venture accelerator or incubator. And he said one really interesting thing. He says for people of the future, you're going to have your own AI agent. It's not going to be like you're at the company and they use the company thing and the company retains the value and knowledge. You need to have your own
Wow.
AI agent that does stuff for you. So
Interesting.
so in the future, you may have agent to agent talking. You may have agents doing stuff on your behalf. Like some people tested, this was with OpenClaw, but also with Claude, you can do parts of it. You can create code or your own agents that help do investments on your behalf.
Wow.
So, Bitcoin, the prediction markets, actual stock and options. And so we just saw Robinhood came out with that agentic investing. That's kind of the, everything that you do, whether it be now, it's investing or it's looking at, booking a restaurant, trying to buy something secondhand on eBay or Facebook Marketplace, you can start having your own agents in the future.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So is there a limit?
I think that, great question. I think that people still like what I call human in the loop.
Okay.
So which is, there's a interesting change now in the legal industry and AI. In the past, there's companies like Harvey and Lagora providing AI tools for lawyers, which is great. Their lawyers are using AI tools. But there's one issue, which is lawyers bill by the hour. That's their business model. They like billing by the hour, charging whatever 500 to even 1,000 plus per hour, and for like different documents, maybe let's say one document, let's say a complex document, let's say 20 hours is the norm. Well, now with AI, does it really take them 20 hours to do that? No. Maybe let's say it takes them 2 hours or
If that, right?
If that. And so, but then there's an issue. They have these big buildings, and you always go to law firms. They have really nice buildings. They have big buildings. And are they going to suddenly, cut their hours by half? Like they're not ready for that. A lot of them are not ready for that. So what's happening is that now in the market, there are what we call these AI native businesses. AI native businesses, which are built ground up using AI, but their business model is based on the new AI model. And so there's one of these companies called General Legal. It does legal services.
Okay.
So it's a law firm, but it's saying, hey, I'm using so much AI that I can pass along those AI savings to you, the customer. So now what they said they did, which is interesting, is their client said that, hey, you know what, you can respond. I noticed that you respond to me much quicker. I have an ask in the morning, and 3 hours later you give me the document.
Sure.
Now, why do people prefer that over AI itself, just only AI? Is because if you just AI, maybe it is 100% correct, or maybe it's 98% correct. I don't know. If I'm not a lawyer, I don't know if it's 98 or 100.
And that 2% can.
That 2% can be a big deal. It could be a very, very big deal. And so you just want to feel like there's another set of eyes of a professional. Whether that be, it could be a lawyer, could be an investor, could be a doctor, somebody who's looking at it one last glance to make sure it's okay and not missing anything. But I think that people are going to expect that the next generation of people are going to use AI. Like I did a project with a publisher, for translating a book. But that publisher was kind of resistant on AI. They're kind of hesitant. They don't want to be inaccurate. I can understand that. But I think in the future, everybody, when they talk to their lawyer, they're like, they should expect, hey, are you using AI? And is the way that you bill me post AI, with AI? So they shouldn't be billing 30 or 50K for a doc. Maybe it's 10K. But some firms will not change, some firms will change, and there's going to be a balance out, of that. But I think that's the human touch. People are going to still need the human touch for a lot of things. But it's going to, the human is going to be 10x more efficient.
I struggle to find something that's as transformative in humanity as AI, honestly. I mean, I don't know if you can come up with, there has to, I don't know, because it seems like the limits are endless, right? In terms of where this is heading. I can only imagine what this world's going to look in the next 10, 15, 20, 30, 100 years. Like,
Yeah.
and it seems like, tell me, actually, let me ask you better. When did this AI catalyst start?
Yeah, no, great question. I think that the term AI has been around for a while. I remember at UCLA, we did really, really simple AI, nothing like what we have today.
Sure.
But then there was machine learning. So there's ways for through math that companies could use technology to calculate something more accurately, and they would call it AI. But the real AI, at least the version that came out to people, I would say ChatGPT, 3.5, right around 2000, maybe 2022, 2023. That was right at the cusp of where AI became. There was a step function change in AI. And when that came out and people started using AI and realizing its capabilities, one of the people I met, he was a startup entrepreneur, and he was using the quote unquote old AI. He was using ML. And his company was able to charge, before the new AI, before LLMs, they were able to charge, let's say, 100,000 per contract. And he said now it's really hard to get even 10,000 per contract, because now people say, well, I can just use AI, and so free and so easy. So I'd say it's really just something new. The biggest changes in the last 3 years, but every month, especially every quarter, every half year, there's some major changes in its capabilities. It's happening on the hardware level. It's happening on the software level. It's happening on the services, the end product level. So there's just step function changes, and it's changing very quickly.
Okay. And, just lastly, how can we get a hold of you? How can we get more information of your solutions? How do we build that relationship?
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn, Edward Tsai, Tsai, or my email is edward@thesiscap.com, THESIS, cap.com.
Okay.
Or through the platform, would love to engage more with you.
We would love it.
our
We would love it.
audience. Yeah.
We have so much to learn. I really believe this is a new world we're entering, and it's changing by the minute, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, it's changing by the minute.
The systems I find out are available. I mean, from one week to the other, it's like unbelievable what we can do. In fact, I started learning how to do a little bit of post-production work myself. I'm a financial advisor, right? I don't do that, but the AI tools make it so easy, honestly, where it's like, it's almost dummy proof, where, as long as you can figure out basic elements, you can do so many things today.
100%.
We built our jingle with AI. We built some music videos, our website, certain elements to that. And you're right. At the end of the day, you do need the human touch, right? So I have like a marketing company that helps me with all these things. But man, it's unbelievable, the turnaround with some of the projects that we have now, because AI is as a complementary piece to what we're already doing.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking some time to join us today. I would love to have you back. We can talk more
Love
about
to join
AI.
again. Yeah.
And well, again, thank you. Anything else you want to say to the audience before we sign out?
No, it was great to talk to you, Isai. And I think everybody, just get your hands on AI, and get your exposure. I use Claude Cowork. You can use ChatGPT, but see where it can take you. Push yourself. For the first, couple tries, it might be a little hard, and you might not get the full answers you want. But as you kind of work with it and play with it, you get better, and it'll like what you're saying, like with your own company, being able to do the marketing material, the jingle. Like, I think in the future, everybody's going to be super powered with AI, and whether it be public market investing, whether doing a website, whether writing, interesting content online, AI is going to enable you to do so much more.
There it is. The AI wave is here. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time on The Climb.
Usted ha trabajado muy duro para construir un mejor futuro. Pero la pregunta es, ¿Su vida financiera va en una dirección clara? Aquí en Journey Equity Wealth Management tomamos el tiempo para conocer su historia, su familia y las metas detrás de esos números. Descargue nuestra nueva guía gratis, Un plan, un camino, un futuro construido con propósito, y use las listas de los 12 puntos para ver dónde está sentado y qué necesita atención. Porque aquí usted no es solamente un número, es una persona, una familia, un negocio, un futuro que merece planificar. Descargue el guía gratis aquí el día de hoy.